So good afternoon. Perfect timing with the music. It's Thursday afternoon, June 25th, 2 p.m. It's time for Ekkono Open Fika again. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Varberg. We've come up to the 11th Open Fika, which is actually the last one before we take a summer break. So we decided to make this topic how to enter post-corona running. And as the title says, we're going to talk about different things that relates to how you can prepare for coming out of this crisis that we have been living in for the last few months. With me today, I have our VP of Sales, Anders Alning. So we will guide you through this session, which is typically the setup is that we do a 15 to 20 minute presentation, followed by a Q&A session or dialogue if possible. So we always encourage that you place questions in the Q&A window. So looking at some guidance for how to use Zoom in this context, you're probably familiar with it by now. The Q&A is where you put in questions that you would like us to address in the forum in the webinar. The chat window is where you place practical questions. If something's not working, if you have anything practical you want to ask, then Eleanor is behind the scene and will help you answer the questions in the chat window. And then when we get to the Q&A part of the webinar, then please raise your hand if you want us to unmute you and let you in to make a comment and say something, an opinion or a question or whatever it might be, an experience. Then raise your hand and we will unmute you from here and let you in. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's not discard the fact that Corona has a terrible and devastating impact on people. People that have gotten sick, even dying, lost their jobs, been locked down in quarantine for months and unable to meet their near and dear. But there will be a time after Corona. Things will normalize, though the new normal might be different in some respects. I am no epidemiologist, so it's a layman's assessment when I say that we'll have most people back at the office in Europe and some freedom to move between countries by the second half of August. Though it will be with some changes. A large number of people will actually work more time from home, and we will have some new fresh insights that this or something similar can definitely happen again. But with a mid-August perspective, it's time due to start planning for how we can come out of this situation in best possible shape and running. Because this has been an unprecedented, long, strange, and impactful situation. So from a collaboration perspective, not being able to meet in person has been disruptive. A lot of our work processes and are developed around getting together in a room with a whiteboard and the physical product at hand. Boom, closed borders, no flights, closed offices, people working from home without all the infrastructure in place. We saw an instant slowdown in pace and activity as most of our customers didn't come prepared to handle a remote and distributed workforce. The uncertainty around COVID-19 also caused an instant shutdown of budgets and projects that had not yet been approved. The future was basically on hold. Now we see that most of our customers release the investment stop and start planning for new projects. The thing with innovation is that not even a pandemic can stop it, as it's fuel for the future of all companies.
That's a great introduction, John. And actually, I was thinking back to the fika that you had about sustainability, where the takeaway is that really this is where mankind is going to have to prove that it has an ability to adapt, to learn, and to change. And it is possible. I mean, even I am able to do a background in Zoom and use Zoom on a regular basis. And living here in Madrid, I can see on my girls that mid-March was sent home from school, that they have been able to adapt doing their schoolwork from home. And I think they've done pretty well. So we all adapt to this change. And I think what it actually drives to is that we have accelerated the digitalization process into sort of a hyperdrive speed. And for product companies, digitalization, which is a hard word to say, spells IoT, digitalization of physical products. So we've heard you say before that this is actually something really exciting, because it means that you can keep the relationship with your products as a product company even after it leaves the factory. And that is very disruptive. IoT is very disruptive. It's even more disruptive than people think, I think, because it's not all about technology. Technology is cool, and we are much into that, but it's not all about that. This changes actually the way that you do business. It's a tremendous change. And with tremendous changes, we've seen that in history, there comes a tremendous business opportunity. It changes the way that we actually do business. We can now enable more service-centric subscription models, data-driven configuration and operation decision, and personalization, which is quite dear to us, as you might agree. There's actually an open fika about incremental learning, which is all about personalization. And you will also see loyalty schemes change over time. So if you're a product OEM and you're sort of hesitant towards if I should get on this bandwagon and actually do a change into a digitalization automation, you need to wake up. Because if you don't do it, somebody else will, and they will pass you on the inner lane or the outer lane, either or. That will definitely happen. So get on the bandwagon and start to doing this. The first advice that I would give is that you start from the end. Now, people would ask, why start from the end when you can start from the beginning? But I'll explain. It's really important to know how you're going to sell this. Who's going to sell this? Is it a pure product sell? You enhance your product and you sell that. Is it an aftermarket that provides this? Is it an add-on? Is it sold as a service? Or is it a complementary that you sort of give you a competitive advantage? These are not only takeaways that we have. Customers tell us that in projects, if they would have thought about this from the beginning, they would be really much more speedy when it comes to after the proof concept, because then they would have prepared that in parallel. So it is quite important to actually do that. And it's really important, as I said from the beginning, this is not about technology. It's about technology and a lot of other things.
So basically, with the conclusion that every product OEM inevitably is going this route, then why wait? I think the Corona in many cases has been the perfect way of applying management by doing nothing. Some things have proven to be an end in themselves, some to be totally obsolete, others to be just treading water, while some projects have gotten stuck in dead ends. Now, in my opinion, is a perfect occasion to clean up the project and innovation portfolio and consider what are the things that we absolutely should do and where do we want to take the leadership position. There's a good reason why people don't hang up the phone when we call and combine IoT, machine learning, and edge in the same sentence. I mean, we provide the automation to smart IoT, which is a necessity to get to the goal at the end of the IoT rainbow. So yes, we're talking about a new and leading edge technology, which means that very few have done this at scale. And that is a good thing in many ways, because that offers an opportunity to actually still take the leadership position. But let's start looking at an approach. Step one, make this a priority. We're past the stage of initial Corona shock. And whether you're going back to the office or not after the vacation, it will be the point where you start a new phase and look ahead. Innovation will be more important than ever.
Absolutely. Step two, I would say, is how to get started. And this is where a lot of people get lost. They sort of looking for the starting line and not understanding really how should we get going, and maybe get stuck a little bit too much in technology, as we said before. So let us give you some of our best practices, some of the things that really worked for us and worked for our customers. We early on found an industry standard called CRISP-DM, which is really, really good for implementing what we do, edge machine learning. And it's an industry standard, as the name says. It's cross-industry standard process for data mining, which is a mouthful. And it's really a good way of adapting these projects. This is something that we have adapted quite a bit to what we do. but it takes the standpoint in what Chris Beam is all about. And it starts off with something that is really, really important, and that is the business understanding. And don't confuse this with an extensive pre-study or how to do the business development process. It's actually quite simple. It's a simple feasibility review that defines the problem. And it looks at things that, how do you solve this today? What is the success criteria? And the success criteria is really, really important, because that's what we're going to backtrack to all the way through putting it in production. So nailing that down early on is very important. And then a few other things, such as the business value, applicability, and how complex is the actual problem. Our common friend Jan Akalin talks about this as finding the not go alone use cases. And what he means by that is that if you have a use case that is very has a big business value, but a low complexity, this is what these companies have done forever. It's their bread and butter. If it has a low business value, they won't do it. And as Jan funnily says, they're quite good at doing nothing. So those they won't do. But if you find cases where you have a reasonably high business value, but at the same time, it's medium to complex, that's where you don't go alone. That's where you find the good use cases that you can work on together. And boy, there are a lot of use cases out there. And we're happy to feed you with great ideas of things that we have done before. You can start off with things like machine learning based health indicators, virtual sensors, sort of finding a normal state of business, a current state. Then you can evolve that into more predictive measures, such as predictive maintenance, performance optimization, auto tuning, self-installation, and smart battery management that Rickard and I discussed in the previous Open Fika. And another thing that a lot of people ask us is that, well, if you want to use machine learning and you want to use AI, don't you need a lot of data first? Don't you need a lot of resource? And don't you need a really complex problem to figure out? And that is definitely not the case. When we look at this, we look at your domain knowledge combined with what we do with edge machine learning, and that makes everything sing. So we really need some people with domain knowledge, someone to product management the project. So a product owner, digital transformation person, and some technical design resource, and maybe someone who's responsible for services. And they don't have to be in the project all the way through. But with that, we can do really magic things. And if you start simple, then you can really evolve this over time. Now, we've tried to make this even simpler for you. So in the business understanding part, we've created something around 7 simple questions. And with those simple questions, you can actually get really far on which use case you can start with, a good candidate to start with. So if you're interested and want some holiday reading, we're definitely here to open that up for you, and you can have a peek.
So this is actually available as an online tool. So just reach out to us and we'd be happy to share that, because we know from experience that this is a very useful tool to make process and make progress with the initial steps of implementing these kind of innovative projects. And just like Anders said, and similar to what I said about the sustainability Open Fika last week, that this is perfect reading as you're humming away in the hammock during your vacation. So after the first step of business understanding, Chris DM proceeds with data understanding, data preparation, modeling, evaluation, and deployment. Stages that you can start working on in your mind, and especially in practicality when you come back in August. So a POC, because that's where a lot of companies start, goes through the steps from business understanding to evaluation. This should be an integrated step on the way to deployment. As we talked about before, start from the end, where you're going, and then validation as a POC should be an integrated step on the way. Because a POC has no value in itself. The real value for you and for your customers comes at rollout. But for an emerging technology like edge machine learning, I totally understand that many must do a POC to get internal approval and sign off a budget to be able to proceed all the way to rollout. In our experience, an edge machine learning POC normally takes between 3 and 4 months. And you should start by doing a project plan. Again, we have templates for that. You see it on the screen right now, which we know is a useful way of approaching it in 3 different steps with different deliverables that determines different levels of feasibility. And we'd be happy to share this. So again, just reach out if you want a copy of the project plan. So this is all you need to get started. This is all you need to get a momentum, to get the ball rolling and kick off your new career as a machine learning ninja. Are there business challenges that will occur due to Corona? Of course, the answer is certainly yes. The risk of not being able to travel again will probably make remote maintenance crucial, which requires smart assessment beyond just doing sensor thresholds. I'm also convinced that customers will be more interested in buying physical things as a service, where they pay to kind of hand over the responsibility to you as a vendor, as an insurance, since no one really knows what's going to come after Corona. They will be more interested and happy to pay per driven mile, produced meter, pump liter, process hours, and through automation and your domain expertise, this is actually an opportunity to increase margins and make even better business. Innovation is and should be fun. So the question is basically, what are you waiting for? I can honestly don't see a better time than right now to get innovative work done and come prepared, or even come running out of this Corona gate situation. So make time and place to get started on doing this. Think a bit outside the box. It usually helps to find a collaboration partner to work with. And so if we say innovation and outside the box, that often means for an enterprise that they start looking at startups. So as a startup, let's share some experiences and insights when it comes to enterprise startup collaboration. First of all, I would argue that time is crucial for us. Time is critical for us, and I bet it is for you as well. But just think about it. When I assign 2 people in a 20-people organization, that's 10% of my total staff that we assign to a project. So I always recommend that you manage expectations, because being quick and keeping things simple can mean different things to different companies. In general, disappointment is a question of expectation, which is why you should align expectations up front. Second part is the money is important to all customers, but probably even more so to a startup. And customer money is definitely the most valuable kind of money. I say it's 5 times the value of, for example, venture capital, because it pays the salaries. It comes with real customer requirements. It's a reference for future wins. It increases the valuation when you actually go out and raise capital. And it's a big boost for the organization every win that you actually get. And it doesn't have to be the big money. I mean, even 50,000 euro POCs make a big difference in the startup world. The other thing I would ask from the enterprise is that you be fair. I mean, don't use the leverage that you have. You have a lot of leverage. You have the brand, you have the bargaining power, and all that jazz that you can use in the wrong way. And even though you can easily be very eager as a startup to put that logo on the website, at the end of the day, it will not be a good deal for either party unless it's a win-win. And there are different kinds of win-win. I recall a defining moment in my previous company when we won a $10 million deal with Cox Communications in the US. And this was at the time when we did less than 10 million in revenue. We struggled to understand why they went ahead with us, even though we knew that we had the best technology, but they explained that we're gonna make you. That's one of the smartest deals I have ever seen. We're gonna make you. So after that, even when we became a $100 million company, we always had the best resources on site in Atlanta, and they were guaranteed to always get the best price. So they made us, but in the process, they also made a good deal. So working with innovative startups can be the possibility to not just do a new product or a new service, but it's actually a possibility to tag along on the next unicorn success story. And that would be kind of nice, right?
Oh, that is super nice. That's where we're aiming. I would add to that that, you know, keep it simple. Company like ours, 24 employees, we put our main effort at creating a product, developing a product, selling it, marketing it. So having the typical enterprise type of functions like a legal department, etc., is not something that we can do. So, you know, keep the deal structure as simple as possible. But, you know, don't misunderstand me. I don't believe that this is a partnership. We should work well together. But as you know, it's sort of hard for a sparrow to dance tango with an elephant. Actually, I never seen that happen, but if it happened, it would be really difficult. But if the elephant says, I have an itch here on my neck, could you please help me on that? I think the sparrow could do a great job. So what we're looking for really is a customer-vendor relationship. So the enterprise places an order about what they need, and the startup actually have to deliver accordingly and get paid. But please, you have to treat us as grown-up. We've done this before. We've actually chosen to be a startup because we want to build a company. But you should have the same high expectations on us that you have on any other company that you work with. And we believe that the best collaborations are based on good attitude, right, John?
Yep.
A win-win and common expectations. Common expectations are really, really valuable when you have a collaboration.
And like in all other cases, problems are very easy to find. Sometimes it's extremely hard to find the opportunities and the possibilities, especially in times like this when we have a pandemic getting in the way. But every change also includes all these opportunities and benefits. And I think in retrospect, when we look back at this and we talk to our kids and grandkids about Corona and COVID-19, it will actually be a pretty short paragraph in time, even though it feels like an eternity when we're in the middle of this storm. Soon things will start normalizing, and then we can build we can build on our newfound experiences, our new tools, our new insights. But in combination with our old ways of doing things and being able to select what we bring with us as new experiences and best practice from before. At Ekkono, we've been trying to do everything in our power to align the organization to be prepared for when the gates open, to be ready for post-Corona, to come running out of the gate. We really want to do this with you, our customers and partner, and turn this problem into a benefit and an opportunity. So that kind of wraps it up. We're a little over time. We're going to see if we have some questions. So feel free to post them in the Q&A. I'm going to switch over to that pretty soon. I just thought I'll go through some quick conclusions of what we have been talking about. First of all, as we said, there will be a life after Corona. There will be a post-Corona time when things start normalizing. We foresee a first step towards a normalization by mid-August, and people can go back to work. However, our work behavior has changed. We've embraced new tools. We see the benefits of working remotely, occasionally at least, and we've expedited digitalization. Digitalization of physical products equals IoT. So everything that can be connected will be connected. And then you should, from the beginning, think smart IoT, because there's no way you can do dumb IoT and manually do everything. To scale it, you have to, from the beginning, build in automation, and machine learning is the tool for automation. So make smart IoT a priority now that you come out with a cleaned up project and innovation portfolio. Get started right away when you come back after the vacation. We have the tools for you. We have been working hard at taking every experience of working with some of the best known brands in different industries. We've packaged them in our crisp DM process. We have the project tool that you can use, the project plan that you can use. Just reach out to us and we'd be happy to provide it to you so you can expedite the initial steps. It's always to get out of the starting blocks that is the toughest part. find ways of leveraging collaborations and especially startups. You can gain a lot from working with startups like Ekkono. But there were some things that we mentioned that we would like to leave behind as things to think about. Time is a scarce resource. Try and keep things simple. Think of a customer-vendor relationships rather than a joint venture. Think of the elephant and the sparrow. Have at least some expectation, at least the same expectation, I should say, on us as you would on any other vendor. We're grown-ups, and manage the expectations by setting them beforehand to avoid disappointment. And this might, at the end of the day, turn out to be your opportunity to join a unicorn ride. I hope so. So we still have some time for questions. So let me switch over and see what we have in the Q&A folder. As you mentioned, a POC is not an end goal in itself. How do you set focus on commercial rollout already before the start of a POC? What are your main tips on getting beyond pilot stage and into production when working in collaboration startup enterprise? Anders, any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. As I said, I think that's really a parallel process. You start from the end when you discuss the project in the beginning, and then you have a parallel process where you discuss how the rollout is going to be during the pilot or the POC. So you have to do that in parallel. Otherwise, we really see how you do a proof of concept, it gets stopped, and then you have to take all that discussion, and actually you've lost some momentum because you haven't thought about some things that would come up that you could have solved during the POC, and now you have to do that from scratch. So yeah, absolutely, that's an ongoing conversation from the beginning. Start from the end and then continue to have that discussion all the way through the POC.
Yeah. And my experience when it comes to different projects that we have been involved in, it's not so much a question of getting things done, but to avoid that you lose momentum. The fact that this hasn't been done over and over again before, so you don't have the playbook internally on how to do it, is a challenge, because you constantly need to push that ball forward. As soon as it stops, then that becomes an issue. So the more you can help the project by making sure that you know this is the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step, then that provides, I mean, removing all the hurdles for the ball to stop is probably the best way of reaching the goal at the end. That's certainly an experience we have from projects. Let's take a second question. Which is your startup view of big corporations during this time? Are we handbraking or the opposite, accelerating? And how does this impact you as a startup? Well, I mean, every major corporation, when something big happens, like the financial crisis, the 9/11 situation, or the Corona crisis, has to take some big general decisions. You don't start by doing exceptions. You make big general decisions, which is where we saw a lot of companies pulling the handbrake, or a lot of the enterprises pulling the handbrake, saying that no new projects. So the budgets were stopped and stalled, put on hold for the time being, which I totally respect. I fully understand that. And then you start releasing it step by step as you start seeing when things will happen and when you start getting out of the current situation, as you see the things start improving. However, and we did something earlier this year. We gave out our first 2 awards to Ekkono Heroes, because at the end of the day, this boils down to people. There are always people in organizations who raise their hand and say, well, you know what, we still have to go through with this. Let's push through. Let's get this done. We had 2 of those that we awarded at Sandvik, Kent, and Thomas at Siemens, that actually did that, of really pushing through and making sure that we follow through with the project. I think that is an excellent example. We also see others that just say, let's continue, let's maybe reschedule and accommodate that the situation is different. and reprioritize. And that's basically what we are urging for in what we're saying, that rethink priorities and planning based on the new circumstances. So at the end of the day, like any other thing, I think the answer to the question is it depends. It boils down to people and initiatives that make this kinds of things happen. Good. I'm sorry, Anders, but we're coming up on 2:30. We're running out of time.
Yeah,
so,
this was fun. So fun.
I think we
stop at one time. Now it's vacation time, right?
Exactly. It's the time of year where you don't keep people indoor without a darn good reason. So let's actually start wrapping up. And we can see if we can address further questions offline afterwards. But thank you so much for attending. This was, as I said, our last open fika scheduled before the summer break. So see you again in August. Keep an eye on social media. That's where you get the latest updates about what's happening at Ekkono. Also the invitation to these open fikas. That's also where you find the material, like the white papers and the articles we do as a follow-up to these open fikas. There will be one explicitly about this one as well. So you're going to see that in our feed from on LinkedIn. But you can also use other social medias, of course. Don't forget to click like on Ekkono, so you do get that recurring continuous feed of information. With that, thank you so much. Have a wonderful summer, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Take care.